How was your early life like? What actions like led you to have to move to that house, or were you born in that house?
Family came over on the boat in the very early 1930s, maybe 1931. My uncles, aunts, mother,
Mm-hmm.
sisters all came over from Sicily, which
They're
is,
Italian. Okay.
yes, the people that moved to the west end of Boston from Italy, and there were a lot of them. Uh, it was all of European Italy when they came to America. Most of them moved to the west end or the north end if they came to this state. Um, and there were Italians, Greeks, Armenians, Irish, and it was just sort of a mix that came to the West End and created a society that worked for them. What they had in common was, quite frankly, that nobody had any money. Everybody was dirt poor, and certainly my family was dirt poor. To give you an idea of the time, they still had, this is awful, but they had horse and wagons. I worked on one. I sold watermelons on a horse and wagon, and I'm sure that dates me. Also, the rents in the West End were between $15 and $25 a month. Not everybody had an automobile. And actually, when my uncle bought his first automobile in Boston, he paid $50 for it. It was not new, it was used, but it was $50. And I remember going into, it was a clandestine meeting with the owner of the car. We walked into a parking lot and he passed papers to us, and my uncle gave him $50, and we left with a very old Hudson. We moved to the West End, and I lived there until I was 19, actually. At 19, they drafted me into the Army. But while in the West End, I had a lot of friends because everybody had the same background. They were from East, as I mentioned, Eastern Europe. And we all met in a playground, and the playground was right beneath my window of where I was living. So I could look out the window and see all of my friends and figure out who was in the playground, who was not. And what we did mostly was play baseball. Picture of me when I first got, well, I was born here.
Yeah.
But that's a picture of me as, I think I was about 7 or 8 during this picture. I'm not really certain of that. And no, I was not in the Army at 8, as somebody mentioned. This is sort of what I looked like up until maybe 10 years ago, maybe 20 years ago. That's
Mm-hmm.
me looking like a North End denizen, somebody from the North End, where I also live. That girl is the girl is the girl that I was engaged to when I was 19. I was disengaged at 20.
Why'd you get disengaged with her?
Well, I went into the Army at 20, and at 21 I got a letter from her saying she had found someone else. Uh, which, by the way, is a cliche that happened to a lot of people, but it was pretty devastating for me. But more devastating is when I left the Army, went back to the West End, and found out that they were tearing it down in the name of urban renewal. And that was very upsetting because it left me without a home, for one thing, and without my friends because they all had, their places were all torn down, and they moved to different parts of the state. And I had no idea. I mean, I was 21, 22 at the time, but I wasn't aware of where they were exactly. And my building was still up, and I was actually there when they tore it down. And it was a very, very sad time. And so in a sense, it's the same as losing it's like being an orphan, because they're removing your origins. They're removing the place where you grew up, the place where you knew everyone, the place where your mom and dad was. And we had nowhere to go. And eventually, my mother found somewhere to go, of course. I mean, we didn't stay in the streets. And we moved to Malden, and from there to Everett. and there to East Boston, and we primarily lived in East Boston for the next 10 or 12 years. But I still visit, and what is left of the West End is the church, St. Joseph Church, and the Mass General Hospital is still there. Everything else was ripped down. This is a picture, that is me at 16 there with my friends who have since passed away. This is a West End reunion. This is very current, by the way, as current as 2 years ago. And this is the gang, the people here who are in their late 70s or 80 were my friends when they were 13 and 14 and 15. And I still know them.